Luis, Daniel, welcome to the Colorado Food Magazine, episode 29. We're here with the Colts, Los Dos Patrios. We're going to talk about a lot of things during this one. We're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future. And where you guys are going to take, the young Colts are going to take this. I know, I knew your dad from a long time ago, great man. He's obviously the foundation and the keel of the ship that you've done. Obviously I spent a lot of time in the Navy, so I use a lot of Navy metaphors in this. And so I want to welcome you two guys and thank you for taking the time. I'm very excited to just talk about your story, where you're going to go, and what you're going to do. I listened to you, Daniel, talk a couple weeks ago and talking about your story at the Lunch for Leaders. So before we get started, so Daniel, looking at you, looked at the wrong one, did that backwards. Tell us how you got started and how the story behind Los Dos Patrios. Both of you are co-CEOs, understand, but different roles within that. So we'll talk about that, how you guys fit together. Maybe there's a little bit of civil rivalry.
More of a yin and a yang, if I know. That's what Luis's terminology is. We're a yin and a yang.
That's exactly what he told me. And I want also, don't let me forget to talk about that book. I recommend it to you, Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership's, that's great. I've read some of it. I actually got it as a gift. I haven't read it yet, but yes, I've read a couple pieces of that. It's pretty good.
Okay, so now Dad isn't here. I want to fully acknowledge that he is the foundation. I know you guys know this. You guys talk about, we were talking about legends in our own mind.
Totally.
Like, no, Dad's the legend.
Yeah, and I get that. He's the jefe, the chief man, right?
Exactly. And we all recognize that. Even when we come in, one thing I distinctly remember about him was every person he would turn to and make them feel like they were like, you're important. Yep. I don't care who you were. I mean, that was amazing. And I remember that like almost 20 years later or 18 years later, how that happened. So let's start with the story of Los Dos from, you told it about at that church, at that Lunch for a Leader. So let's start there.
This is our favorite story to talk about, right? I mean, our father is literally, he's the guy. He was born in a family of 15. I'm born in a family of 15. He has 13 now, or is it 14 now? 14 now, unfortunately. But born in a family of 15, he was lucky number 7. He kind of migrated from Mexico, Jerez, Zacatecas, him and my mom, migrated over from. And then, he got into the industry really, really at a young age. He started working as a grocery bag boy at 13 years old.
Really?
This is a funny story because he came in, probably, his birthday's August 20th. And this was like in February. He came in February, and he's like, he asked the owner, he's like, hey, can I get a job? He's like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 13 years old. He's like, oh, you got to be 14 to work here. I was like, okay, I'll be 14 next week. Just remember, this is February. His birthday's not till August. So he comes in that next week, says, okay, I'm 14 now. He's like, I'm ready to work. He's like, okay, here's a job. So, he got a job right away. That's my father, right? He just tried to figure out a way. I mean, being in a family of 15, he had to help his father, and his mother provide. He dropped out of high school and never finished high school. From those bag boy days, he ended up getting into the restaurant industry and he started working his butt off. He started from a dishwasher. From a dishwasher, he went into the kitchen area, the kitchen line, then from there, he's like, hey, I want to be able to make more money. It's like, I see the servers making more money, the bussers making more money. I want to go do that. So he decided to do that. He took that leap and he went to became a busser. And then he saw the servers were doing more. He wanted to become a server. And then he noticed, he's like, man, the managers make more money. Then I always want to be a manager, right? It's like he just climbed that ladder little by little, and he ended up opening up a restaurant off of 18th and Arapahoe.
The first one was Tia Maria.
Oh, first one was Tia Maria. That's right. Tia Maria with our godmother. 72nd and Pecos. They ended up opening that together. Unfortunately, COVID shut them down, but they were open for 25 years. And then he ended up breaking off in a good way, not in a bad way, from Tia Maria's over to Arapahoe Junction. And, this gentleman, his name is Pelon, that's what they say in business, right? It's like majority of his hard work, but a lot of his luck. So this was a really lucky opportunity that my father had. This gentleman, he ended up actually having a heart attack. And when he woke up, the owner of this property, he survived. He had the winning lottery ticket in his pocket from Denver. And It was the highest lottery winnings since to that date. Yeah, it was, he's like, so he went up to my father, he's like, hey, Jose, just keep the name of the business, keep it at Arapahoe Junction, sell a couple of my items, but you don't have to pay me rent. Just pay the cam charges. You keep everything. Like my dad said, okay, done. Of course he's going to take that.
Yeah, of course.
So he ended up, taking that opportunity. He ended up saving enough money till he opened up in 2002 in this location that we're currently sitting in. It was in Holly County line, Centennial. Yeah, 20 years to the date, almost. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 20 years to the date. And
we planned that. Yeah, that's the ticket. Yeah,
He put everything he possibly could into this business. He only had, what was it? $5 and 18 cents left in his pocket when he opened up this business, and this business, now you see, not anyone hearing you can't see it, but we had fluorescent white walls. We had the lights. It was just, everything was bright. There was no color to it. We had barbecue tables, barbecue chairs. We didn't even have enough money to put the now open sign because we didn't have a ladder. We put the now open sign. There's a pillar out there and a trash can. We tied those two together and it said now open. Like that's
amazing.
There was nothing. My father was like, he told my mother, I was like, hey, if I fail, then I'll get back on my feet and we'll work. He's like, I'm, 30?
That's that
30
indomitable spirit of him.
Exactly. Yeah. The entrepreneur spirit, right? The hey, it's, it's going to be okay. That optimism, but he always knew it was going to work. Deep down, he knew. He said, "It's of course you have to think about it if it doesn't work." But he like you ask him, Dad, did you know it was going to work? He's like, I knew it would. Deep
that's
down,
that internal optimism. But that
exactly.
I see he brings that forward with you guys.
Yes.
When you talk about the Ramirez Hospitality Group, where you're going to grow and grow, we'll get into that. But I see that spirit, that DNA is part of him being extended, and of course raising you two.
Yeah, well, when you had to work, when we were 13 years old, even younger, peeling shrimp, peeling potatoes, dishwashing, dealing with customers at cheap labor, it's like we learned that real easily. Yeah, we grew up very fast.
That's funny. When I had a couple companies, my son, I said you need to learn the value of hard work and what the person out there. I put him out there. I'm like, I told the foremans and the people, I'm like, work him, but don't abuse him.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And they did. And after about 2 years, he was like, Dad, I understand what labor's like.
Right. And that's the way we want to grow up too. Now our kids, right? It's like we have kids, and it's like we have these businesses. It's like, well, they can. Yeah, we already got them in here a couple of days. Like they're young, super young, but it's just that muscle memory, right? It's like my little boy was here a couple of weeks ago, and my dad puts his little apron on, puts his tie on, and gives them the sweepers or sweeping. Maybe a couple of rounds, like maybe not less than a minute, but it's just that muscle memory of being in the restaurant. Walking. He grabs my mom's hand, and he's like, "Okay, let's go sit people down," and they go sit people down. Like it's just that muscle memory already just being here. It's like it's super cool.
Oh, nice. Well, we're going to turn to Larice on that one. Give us a couple of funny stories. That's quite funny, actually, of those kids. Why do you do that?
So we do it just so they understand that what we do is not just, oh, wow, we can go to the aquarium this weekend, or we can go Dad can make cheeseburgers tonight. Like, it's not because of that. It's because of hard work. We grew up as restaurant kids. My middle daughter, Luiana, she's going to be 4 years old on Saturday. Holy cow, time flies. But so we brought her to work also a couple months ago. And you know how toddlers are, right? They don't have a filter. So they'd be, hey, there's going to be two of us. So she would grab one menu. You guys can share this one. So she would tell guests, and they would obviously thought it was adorable. So she'd walk up and she's like, you guys can share, or you can share. You can share this. You can do this. And she'll clean the menus, and she got some tip money. And when coming from that tip money, she actually has such a kind heart. Her $3 that she earned that day, she wanted to go across the street to the gas station and bring back the hosts that work with her Skittles, because she wanted to share her candy.
Oh, nice. Obviously, she's learned that at home and from you guys. So that's great. But let's turn the story a little bit back again. We're going to cover all these things during this, but about your dad when you're growing up. What do you think? And I know you guys talk to him a lot. You're very close. I see that. And I see this great family dynamic. What do you think the hardest part was for him? I know that he has that eternal optimism, but I mean, he's just, I know him, just see him. He's always made everybody feel special. The stoicism in him. What do you think is the hardest part?
The hardest part for him,
and you don't want to speak for him.
It's kind of a hard question to answer, but I think the hardest part for him, as more recently, maybe not the beginning, was him letting go of the reins a little bit and understanding that the old school way is not applicable for what we're trying to do now. I think that's where he had a tough issue. Just and my brother and I were like, hey, Dad, we can't, have our managers here open to close every single day anymore. We need to have a quality of life. But it's like, well, I did it. My managers did it. They went up and down, left to right. And I think that's where he had a little bit of an issue, is letting go.
Yeah. And that's a great question. I want to find, and you're probably going to go answer that. We're turning to Daniel now about old school versus new school. I loved your talk at Journey Church, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's Journey Church. And yeah, go ahead.
No, just amplifying what he's saying about that transition.
Yeah, I think honestly, the hardest thing what for our father was that it just piggybacks off to Luis and that whole, the old school with new school was my father always wanted his hands in everything. So he spread himself way too thin. And I think that was the hardest thing for him, was that he wanted to continue having a good quality of life, but I think he also wanted to continue opening, but he also wanted to maintain a family life with my mom, with us. I think that was one of the hardest things. His hardest thing was he knows, with me, but it's like, he spread himself out way too thin, which, and he didn't understand, he wanted his hands in every single thing. He was, this was his baby. That's
not uncommon, because he built it from ground zero, from an idea.
Right.
And obviously back to that story you mentioned earlier, that gentleman that had the winning lottery ticket, he saw something in your dad.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just don't do that.
Right. Exactly.
Like this good man, this hardworking, this indomitable spirit. But that's what I see in so many restaurateurs, the chefs, the community. They're just like, this, like, we're here because we see opportunity.
Right.
I want a better life for my kids. I want to see, and I consider your dad a person of excellence.
Totally.
We're always pushing that at the Hispanic Restaurant Association in our leadership and our leadership education forums and the training modules we're building around that. I want to talk about leadership, education, teamwork, culture, and relationship building in the Los Dos Patrios, or the Ramirez Hospitality Group brand.
Yeah.
So how does that fit in there? How does those tenets of leadership, those are the 5 pillars that we look at the Hispanic Restaurant Association. And what I told you right before the interview, so I know this is not rehearsed, I said these are some of the things we're going to cover.
Totally.
Let's talk about leadership from both of you.
Yeah.
Both. I know you just started reading Extreme Ownership, a Navy book about leadership and all the different types. That's very much modeled after how we run the Hispanic Restaurant Association. Can't talk. I need more coffee. So let's talk. Number one, what is leadership? Good leadership to you? What is good leadership to you?
Daniel, I mean, this is Daniel speaking here. So great leadership to me is putting people in the position to make themselves grow, right? Anybody can be a leader. I personally think that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be a leader in your own way. And, what I've really learned myself is at a young age, I was a 3-year captain at my high school, brand new high school, Valley Christian High School. I became a 3-year captain, got all these accolades. And to me, I was never that person. I was never that guy that would go rah, rah, growing up. And I was always actually the shy one, always a shy one. And
you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was the one that never really spoke out. I just had a smile on my face.
Okay, got it.
That was my nickname. My nickname was Smiley. Yeah, but I never actually spoke out or anything. And then come sophomore year, I just started, my coaches challenged me to say, hey, how do we get this people going? How do we get people going? Like, let's get your teammates going. And I said, okay, let's do it. Just started being more vocal. Started being more vocal on the field, started being more vocal on, even in the classroom, sitting in front of the class, just doing all these little things. And then from there, it clicked. It clicked to me. And that's why bringing it back to the restaurant, I encourage our busters, our kitchen staff, our hosts. It's, it doesn't matter what position you are, what you want to do in life. The things you're learning here are going to be the things you learn for the rest of your life. And if you want to become a leader in whatever you want to do, you have to learn these skills, whether it's people skills, whether it's communication skills, whatever it is, you need those skills to become the leader. We have a saying here at Ramirez Hospitality Group, we want to make the best version of yourself. When you come in to work with us and you end up leaving our company, we hope that wherever you go to, you will end up being the best person for that company. So that's
very good.
That's
so it's
our
very
goal.
inspirational.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally inspirational. That's what we are. I mean, that's our father literally built that into us. He's like, you got to believe in yourself. You have to do it yourself. And now we're the ones pushing it out to our,
and you can do it on a much broader scale.
Oh, of course.
And that's what we're trying to build here at the Hispanic Restaurant Association through our different, using this podcast to tell the story. Like, yes, they did it.
Yeah.
He did it. You did it. You did it. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to turn the mic now to Luis.
Perfect.
Let's talk about leadership.
So leadership to me is, it's obviously very important. Reading Extreme Ownership, there's everyone's a leader, but the best leaders are the ones that can admit their own wrong or when they're at fault. So I think that really goes a long way. And I think that I attribute that to my father. I know we mentioned that he wanted to have quality of life, but he necessarily didn't have the opportunity to do that with me. Because he was working. I was his firstborn and he always has to be working. And then he realized, I need to push away a little bit so I can spend time at least with, now that Luis is older and Danny's coming up, spend some time with him. Self-awareness and, taking ownership of that. And, the way that I look at a leader is someone, I look at my brother, I look at my dad, and then I don't like to talk about myself as a leader. I know I'm looked at that way. And I think my style or the way I want to motivate and lead people is through energy. Very, very infectious energy. I'll come into the restaurant and I'm either singing just again to lighten up the mood or just
if you're good, I'll be your record agent. So.
I'm completely awful. I'm sorry, I'm awful. But that is one thing that I think appreciated. For example, our Parker, when we opened up Parker, we would all strategize where we're going to go because there's 3 of us there. I ran the floor when we first opened Parker. So I would put my brother and Danny, Danny and my father up in the front. Cause my dad's, like you said it, he's someone that's infection, makes you feel important. And Danny's over there overseeing the operations. My dad could just sit there, be the face. Danny's making sure the front. I threw myself in the back and I'm right there with the kitchen guys, going to war with them.
Team. Yeah,
so all part of the team. So we all have our heads or our own units that we were taking care of that day. And one thing that they told me was like, Luis, why are you quiet? Why are you not singing? I'm like, it's time to get serious, guys. And they're like, and then one Christian, who's actually our food truck operator, is like, Luis, we need your energy right now. Like sing, like do something. We feed off of it. So once that, I'm like, I never realized that
they wanted that.
They need that. So if they see us, up and smile, okay, everything's fine. But when they saw us go down, then the energy was okay. Now we're,
and that's one of the other tenets, the great culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. That's a great story. So what do you think? What has inspired you? I know your dad has, but what other things or person or books or readings or groups has inspired you throughout your life?
I used to be in martial arts. I was able to get my black belt, and I would look at my instructors as leaders. Reason why I looked at them as leaders is they really taught me to look at myself in a way that I've never really realized. That from a father, you get the old school Mexican way of being rude. It's like, hey, boom, you do something wrong, you get smacked upside the head. You do something wrong, you do this.
Old school versus new school,
right? Without getting an explanation. It's just like, you did it wrong. Well, how can I improve? What can I do this? Figure it out, son. I know you saw that. Figure it out. And then I looked up to my senseis and my masters growing up, and they really taught me the self-discipline, meditation and looking at yourself for who you are and what you're doing. And that's really inspired me. And I think it's carried me. I actually saw one of my an old student that used to train with us at the grocery store the other day. Say, hey, Luis, remember me? I'm like, I remember your haircut. We used to train together. He's like, yeah, I was Tyler. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you. He's like, and he told me, he's like, I used to look up to you. It's like, you were the fastest guy on the sparring mat. And I'm
nice.
And just hearing that, it's like, okay, there's more qualities in the leader that maybe not necessarily so vocal, but leading by example. And I really try to do that as my style, is lead by example.
Okay.
I may not be,
nobody's perfect. I understand that. No, that's not what we're after. We're talking about culture, development of people, which you guys seem to be doing very well. Daniel, what has inspired you?
Honestly, I played football for 14 years. I started in first grade, so I was an offensive lineman my entire life. And, I learned, what the work ethic would be and how, from great people, from great mentors my entire life, and, going through cancer, last year, and really just being able to win that out, it's, I feel like you get inspired. I think if you get inspired all the time, from people, from even somebody random from the grocery store, from even watching a random video. So, happiness inspires me. Gratitude inspires me. The things that I've learned personally from your attitude and your effort are the only two things you can control in this life. You have a piss poor attitude, then you're going to have a crappy day. If you have a piss poor effort, you're going to have a crappy day. You can't have one or the other. You have to have both. You have to have a great attitude. You have to have a great effort, and if I was to recommend a book that if anyone wants to read to really just get inspired, I actually have this book. This book was given to me by a great teacher of mine, Chop Wood, Carry Water, Joshua Metcalf. And my name was actually Danny before then. Everyone would call me Danny from high school. And this book even talks about, it's like, you have to drop that name, what everyone called you as a young age, and go back to what is going to be your new name for people are going to show you. I'm Daniel. My name is Daniel Ramirez, and that's what my birth certificate says. But in high school, everyone called me Danny. So I'm like, it's time to put Danny to the side. People still call me that, but it's time to call me as Daniel. And, let me read this quote. This is how this book is really just amazing. It says, this quote is, "The only thing that is truly significant about today or any other day is who you become in the process. What good is it to reach the top if you skip the steps to get there? Would you want to be the person flying your plane, performing your surgery, or handling your money to have cheated? Of course not, right? It's like you take the steps to get there, you find the way to get there, and everything else falls into play."
Yeah, you build yourself the necessary steps. And I think there's if you don't, I'm going to use the term earn your way up and everything else. I think the leaders feel insecure, and then they just know it, and it's a fakeness about them from a leadership perspective. That's great. So that's a great book. What was that book again?
Chop Wood, Carry Water. It's this book we have all of our managers read. We have all of our managers. If you're going to become a manager for Los Dos Potrillos, in that process, we have them read Ideal Team Player, and we also have them read Chop Wood, Carry Water.
Wow, that's a lot of the stuff you have. Like when I said our goal at the HRA, we look at these 5 criteria: leadership, education, teamwork, culture, and relationship building. Every one of those, it sounds like you do here.
Yeah.
Do you do it from the dishwasher to the manager, or is that in process, or do you want it? You have standard operating procedures.
It's a process. It kind of depends on kind of what we want to see. Is everyone can be a leader in their own way. That's kind of what we aspire to be. What we do is for our managers, they read this book, and then from this book, we want them to project it out to everybody else.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right, that's the way we look at it. It's like, there's a dishwasher, but the thing is that we take also the mentality of what our father did was, hey, he was here, and then he just kept climbing the ladder, even from a dishwasher to the line, from the line to the front of the house, from the front of the house to managers.
So you have a path of progression.
We have a path. You have a succession plan for all of them, right? We ask them what they want to do. We ask them what their goals are. We want to know what they want to do, because if we don't, then we're being naive and we're neglecting their dreams and their goals, and not wanting them to get to wherever they want to. Maybe they want to become a owner themselves. We'll help them. There's a server, Glacy at our Parker location. She just started working with us a couple months ago, 6-7 months ago. And I asked her, like, so what do you want to do? What's your goal? She said, what? I really want to be a server, but I really would love to open my food truck. I said, shoot, we just opened a food truck. Let me help you. Right? There's a lot of processes that go into that. You open it, even if it is Mexican food, I'll love to help you. We're not going to give them recipes, right? That's something different. But operationally, to
build them
anything,
up.
to build them up, right? It's like this. Sometimes I think this restaurant world could be like, oh no, I'm not going to help you because you're going to be competition. It's like, no, there's enough for everybody to go around.
Exactly.
Enough.
How has that helped you or your company in developing or giving them hope? How does that help you? Also, I'll
give that to Luis, because it's a great question, and we've done it.
So there's so when we started Highlands Ranch, I'll say that one. So we started July 31st, 2016, when we opened our Highlands Ranch location. Our initial team that we started with was a group of not very inexperienced, but younger servers who have actually grown and become had influential pieces in this company. Jose, our manager our general manager of Highlands Ranch right now, was one of my first hires as a server. He started off as a server.
Oh, really? Is he GM now?
He's the GM of our Highlands Ranch location. He was
like
one of my first hires there when we hired him. Abraham, who's our executive manager or our regional manager, was also started off as a server. Another one of our
now he's a regional.
Now he's a regional, so he was one of our hires.
I see.
Hernando,
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Not only are you guys talking it, but you're walking it.
Yes.
You're being the example. That's great.
Hernando, again, another, this was my brother's, who's actually he's probably should be raised number 2, honestly. But he, again, started off as a server, and he just watched his progression, what he's done as well. Now he's the assistant general manager of this location, which is catering. Let's see, IT guy.
So he's developing himself. You're giving them the framework and architecture,
yes,
to develop themselves. And I call it from the military an overwatch. You're helping them develop them, be safe and secure in their environment, who they are, and they develop their skill set, and then you adjust to what their skill set is.
And we've actually had a couple of our servers, female servers, that have come up and become. Jasmine started off server, now she's assistant manager here. Darla, server, started assistant manager.
So you go on and on.
We go on, and we've even had a couple of our old employees that started off, as servers. They became close to being assistant managers, and then they went off. You're like, hey, thank you for the opportunity. And I think what we learned here at Lostos is now going to help us. And they went on to go open up their food trucks. I have another gentleman that worked with us who was a server, and now I can't pronounce his restaurant name, but he's out in Golden, and he's doing a great job. Him and his wife are doing
I'm going to have to get their names, and I want to interview them.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what we want to do at the Colorado Food Magazine, at the Hispanic Restaurant Association. Come together as a community, help each other, because we're a million times stronger when you do that.
Yes.
And when you develop, Luis and I, you and I have talked offline over the phone and in person. That's one of the more important things, is developing leadership within the Hispanic community, not only just internally, but externally. So we can have these teams, and all of a sudden there's that network-centric effect to where we're 1,000 times stronger.
Well, it's just to get rid of that stigma that we've talked about. What they say, a Hispanic's worst enemy is another Hispanic. Like, that is just such terrible thinking.
That's old school.
It's old school. It's like we can't. How are we supposed to go and grow if we're going to keep living based off that rule? Like, you know what? Just if my competitors over here has a rival Mexican restaurant, I will go be the first person to go over there and shake his hand and introduce myself. You need something, anything I can help you out with, or you want to pick my brain with something, here's my phone number. Give me a call.
So I was talking about that, Nancy Miramontes.
Yes.
You know Nancy?
I know.
She was on Univision, Telemundo, things like that. We just kind of connect. I know it's awesome because she's working her butt off on Instagram, trying to build her own business, like trying to do all the things that are right. And I'm like, you know what? That's awesome. And she has a cleaning company. So whenever anybody asks me, I'm like, hey, Nancy, here's a person, I'm going to push them off to you. It's like, if I know somebody that could help this person now, that's going to get them business, whether Hispanic or whatever, I'm going to push them off to you. It's like, let me help. And she's always so surprised. Like, oh my gosh, she's calling me. Like, heck yeah. It's like, that's what it's about. It's like, let me help you. It's like, there's no favors need to be returned. Like, let's get you going.
Exactly. And that's great. That's one of the things we're also developing as part of the secondary part. It's a phase 2, the Hispanic Business Alliance, for just businesses like that. Because our goal is to develop the leadership, give the tools, because we do a tremendous amount of stuff pro bono. We just help because that's needed out there. And that's some great stories. That's excellent. So we talk about inspiration. We talk about growing up. We talk about all how you're developing and how it helps you, just like we did. What does the future look like? What do you guys want to grow this brand? You went from 1, is it 4 now?
4.
Then you renamed it the Ramirez Hospitality Group, because let's talk about like little brands. What does the future look like? What do you want to go?
Yeah, no, we're super excited, right? We have 4 full sit-down restaurants. We're under contract for our 5th one. We're going to be building from the ground up on this one. And so this is going to be, I think my father says this is his last one, and it'd be kind of cool, right? Because we're going to be building this last restaurant. It's kind of the icing on his cake, right? It's like his legacy, like we're going to be building this restaurant. It's going to be a 7,000 square foot restaurant with a 1,500 square foot patio with a brewery.
Where at?
Can't say quite yet.
Okay.
We're under contract.
Top secret? Okay, got it.
Top
Roger
secret.
that.
We'll tell you off mic. We'll tell you off the record.
Okay.
But this is going to be super exciting because we have unobstructed use to the west side. You know, it's literally going to be the most beautiful restaurant I think anyone has seen.
Well, let us know. We'll be there for the opening.
We'll be there for the opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that one, you know, we have this 5th location coming, but you know, what we also want to do is this fast casual concept. I'm such a firm believer, you know, this is what the future of Los Dos Potrillos is going to look like. We're still going to, like Luis and I are going to still be opening up the regular full-blown, full-service sit-down restaurants. So those are going to be a lot slower to build. But this new restaurant that we're going to be doing, the new concept, it's going to be awesome. You know, that's the plan. It's going to be 35 for the 4,900 square feet with patio, lot smaller footprint, no servers, no bussers. We had a great conversations, met with Phil Hicks the other day. He's you know, one of the biggest fans that we have, one of the biggest brokers in Colorado, in the country. I mean, he does the Chick-fil-A rollouts, he does the Whole Food rollouts, he does the Shake Shack rollouts nationally, and it's, you know, he believes in our product, and we're super excited to do that. You know, we're not going to do any type of private equity. It's all going to be self-funded. And, you know, we just want to build his legacy up. We want to be able to take it here in Colorado, take it outside of Colorado, you know, and it comes to a point in time, Lisa and I always chat about, it's like, man, what if we look for a buyout, you know, or what if we say, okay, let's just say we have over 30 restaurants, across Colorado, a little bit over, you know, over to the next couple states. Like, do we keep it or do we have our kids run it? Right. We started thinking about those things.
That'll be a great legacy, especially for your dad. I mean, I just remember this was the only location that what I can recall. I mean, 15, 18 years ago. And so it's great.
Yeah. I mean, so again, like to piggyback, like we joke. Well, I like to joke. How many locations do you guys want to do? Like 100. Like, well, how long is it going to take you? Well, our goal is to have 100 within the next 9 years. And
really that many?
That's the goal.
Shoot the North Star. Nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's absolutely an attainable goal. Where we have the same way we're creating these tools, giving the tools to our staff, to everyone that's with us, so they can have their dreams. We are getting the tools from our mentors, from people that have been helping us. So now we have our tools and our framework to make our goals happen as well. So whether that entails 100 or 200 or 300 locations, or, you know, maybe we decide to do a buyout with 50. So we have very hot, lofty expectations of each other and how we're going to make this grow.
So we talk about what the future looks like. We talked about old school and new school. How are you bridging that? Now we're back to the leadership. How do you bridge in that? And is the old school needed? And is the new school needed? And how does that fit together with what you're doing right now? I know these are kind of a different question, but we like to go a little more in depth about the leadership style.
Sure. So, I mean, not with the new school, obviously the biggest thing that jumps out to me as far as the leadership standpoint is that we want to be able to give our staff and our managers a quality of life. The old school mentality is you come in and you're here, you're in zombie mode. You're working 100 hours a week. Your first one in, last one out the door. Okay. That's very admirable that you're there working your ass off. You're there just working your ass off. You know, you don't get to see your kids. You don't get to spend time with your wife or your husband. You're just here to work. New school, and how we're going to bridge it with the old is like, when you are here, it's more concise. Work
You're
smarter,
focused.
not harder. So we work a little bit smarter, so you can have that quality of life outside of work. You want to bridge it that way, so you still have those same principles. When you're here, you're giving 100%. You're giving that same old school mentality, like boom, 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 boom. But you know that we have the team to back it up. You know what? I can take that Sunday off to go to the water park with my family. I can't take that Sunday off to take my wife out or my husband out. I have that tool, the tools necessary to be able to do that. So quality of life is a big thing. Social media, again, is another massive wrinkle that's come into our world, you know, well, since we were 14, 13 years old, MySpace. And now we're using it for, you know, for businesses. Businesses are jumping on that trend and realizing how important it really is to social media. I get a coupon in the mail right now, or just a daily flyer, I don't look at them anymore. It's just like I feel bad that I'm destroying the planet by just looking at this stuff.
Right.
So, but I look on social media. I'm on my phone all the time. It's like, oh, scrolling through TikTok. It's like, hey, that's smart. Or I like what they're doing. Again, you got to be able to bridge how to attract your new audience and really understand what your new audience is, but you still have that old school mentality of how you're going to approach it, what you're going to do with it, and really hammer
the
it in.
relational side,
Yes,
versus the instant.
So
that's a tough bridge, and I recognize that.
You want your phone. A lot of let's talk now. The Gen Z, our client base that's going to be coming up now, they're like this. They're like this. That face-to-face interaction frightens them. So that's where the old school comes in. What's going to set us apart is we are going to have these conversations where I'm going to look at you in the eye like, hey, yeah, you saw us on social media, but now let me talk to you and let me explain it to you. And let me show you all about what it means to do what that TikTok or what our Facebook post said, what our Instagram post said. That's what we're going to do. That's where we're going to bridge it between the new, again, staring at this to, hi.
Right. And that's one of the things that it's a little bit different, but our Latin Supper Club, what we're doing there, we're bringing people together. We discourage phones, just a big 15, 20, it can be 10, it can be up to 100, just people just getting together, enjoying food, each other. And if you listen to all the podcasts, food is across all barrier, breaks down all barriers. And why, when we want to get to know someone, what do? We don't say, let's go chop some wood. I mean, to reference that book, but we can do that. But that's a hard thing. But we say, let's sit down, let's have a drink, let's have some food. And that's our goal at the Hispanic Restaurant Association, to bridge some cultures. And we do that via food. You guys obviously know that very well.
The biggest way to get to know someone or culture, in my opinion, is through food.
Exactly.
Through their food. When Danny and I travel, we don't go to where the tourists are hanging out. If we're in Mexico, it's like, oh yeah, you got to go try this place. I'm like, okay, but I see a bunch of tourists. I want to know where you're going to go. I want to go hang out and eat and drink and be where you go after your shift. A lot of people actually get blindsided by that question. Like, how can a tourist ask me where I want to go eat? Like, that's weird. They don't want to go to the steakhouse. Like, no, we want to go and see what you guys are doing.
And it's amazing the food that comes out of Mexico that people don't know about. And that's one of our goals. Like our Chefs Association, we had the Bean Summit a couple of weeks ago. You were there. The amazing talent out there that nobody knows about. That we're using this platform to highlight them. And you guys know that, but you're absolutely right. So I'm going to shift the interview a little bit. Let's talk about each of your roles within Los Dos Patrios. Okay. So let's start with that.
So I like to describe my brother and I as a yin yang. Danny is absolutely fantastic at, coming up with innovating certain ideas and laying out the groundwork for him. So he is great with the back of the house, the computer, really coaching up our management style. I'm the opposite. So I'm a little bit different on that side. We both have the same goal, so that's why we make it work. But I'm the opposite. I'll come into a room and really, again, my energy that's how I bring it out. So I'm more of the face-to-face front of house, like talking to people. Where Danny's great at talking too, but he's the one that sets the other parts in motion. So he sets it in motion. I make sure that's going in motion, and then round and round our yin yang goes.
Very complementary and overlapping skill sets.
And then
it works well.
It's kind of, everyone says like, how could you work with your brother? Or how do you guys do it? Silvering rivalry. We both have humbled ourselves to the point. It's like, you know what, Danny, that's a fantastic idea. I love it. I have a couple of questions about it, but I'm not going to knock your idea or knock this or knock that. Again, because, I got to humble myself. I don't know everything. As much as I've been in this industry a little bit longer than he has, I don't know every single thing. And I still have a lot of that old school mentality, because that's who my dad's the one that taught me all that. So I have a lot of still how to get over that old school stuff. The grind. And then, when he started, I had a lot of that new school stuff that I thought about, but I'm like, this would never fly with Dad. There's no way he would ever approve to it. And then Danny came in and really got us both to sit down and, hey, guys, look at this. Let's try it this way. That way, at least you can go out. Or, Dad, you don't have to be here every day. Let's just try it out. And then, he had to say it. And I took his side. I'm like, Danny, you're absolutely right. Let's sit down and talk to Dad, and we'll get him, whether he likes it or not. This is the way it has to shift.
Okay. I'm going to turn the mic to Daniel. What made you see that, think it through, and then say, go to Luis and your dad and say, I think this is better. What confidence in you, or schooling, or inspiration? What made you?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Honestly, I mean, it goes back to where, I worked at Valor. I mean, I was an exercise science major. I was totally, honestly, I hated this restaurant industry growing up because I was here all the time. But I knew I would be back. I just knew I'd be back one day. And when I came back, I wanted to start a family with my newly wedded wife. And, I saw how my brother and my dad grew up. I saw how my dad and we saw how we grew up, right? My dad wasn't as involved with like Luis because he was working. He was somewhat involved with me, but that's just because they were just trying to make the best living for us. And that was amazing. And I said, okay, we've done this for the past, when I got in here, 15 years. I don't want to be like this for the rest of our life. There's no way we should do this, and I it's funny because there are even ways we even convinced my dad. I'm like, Dad, let's look at every industry there is out here in this world. Let's look at law enforcement. Let's look at the Army. Let's even look at drug cartels. Like they have a structure, man. Like they have people that are on the ground. They have people that are commanders. They have people that are chiefs. They have people that are the head. Like everybody has a structure. And, he started understanding, okay, there's a structure. There's that he started to understand that and get that. And he took that. It was like leap of faith. I said, okay, son, do it. And I kind of talked about at lunch with the leader is there was just so much conflict with him and I at the beginning because I kept seeing him as my dad, not as my boss. I would have not gotten that mad if my boss was to say, no, this is stupid, or no, this isn't going to work. I would have gone to the drawing board and redo it again. But since it was my father, I took that to heart so many times. And then I started realizing, okay, I have to present it to him in a different way that he's going to understand. I started doing that and it started working out really well. And I mean, I think he also started understanding that I was looking out for the business. I mean, I had to let go of one of my aunts, one of his sisters. And, it's because I'm not looking out for what's best for that person. I'm looking at what's best for our business. And what my father has always told us, he said, there's no family in business. The only family in business is me, my brother, my mother, and my father. That's it. That's the only family members we have in this business. Anybody else that wants to come in, they're just an employee during that. Out of work, we're family.
And families so often take advantage of other families.
And he learned that the hard way. He learned that in his past restaurants, and he learned that from experience. And that's what he said. There's no family in this business. The only family there is, it's just us four. That's it.
There's a lot of leadership principles to unpack there when you talk about the business. You looked at it from a different perspective. Like, Dad, I got to look at him as my boss, not my dad.
Right. Correct.
And like he built this, so I have to take into consideration his view. Because I always say, we can all, turn around and look at the window and we can do a minute view and okay, memorize everything. And all three of us will come out with completely different pictures.
Totally.
Some will come the near view, some will be the detailed view, and some will be the long view.
Totally.
And that's there's some great principles there.
Absolutely.
So, wow. What do you have any to add to that?
Like I said, I remember the first time that my dad actually bought into this. I had a Friday night off. That was a big day. Friday and Saturday off, and it was nice. I was able to actually, can start my relationship with my now wife, and the quality of life really helped out. And again, he's a very stubborn, old school, can't.
But he built something that's magnificent.
And it's amazing. He laid down the foundation of his legacy, and now we're just adding the pillars on top of it.
That's great. So what would you tell, and we'll start with you, Luis, an 18-year-old you, if you had to do it all over again?
18-year-old me?
Yeah.
If I had to go back to when I was 18 years old, I would tell myself, you do have something to offer. Let it shine.
Know your worth.
Know your worth.
Okay. What about you, Daniel? Well, if you had to go back to, I know it's only like yesterday, but
if I was 18, go back when I was 18. Man, it's funny. I love this question. Little side story is when I was 21, 22, I would actually go and ask top business owners like CEOs and all these people. I'm always curious, like if you were 21 years old right now, my age, and you can go back, what would you tell yourself? And I got so many phenomenal answers. And, I asked myself this question a couple months ago after cancer, but taking it to 18, I would say, enjoy life, enjoy what you have and take it a day at a time. There's just, if it doesn't get done today, it's going to get done tomorrow. No, just enjoy what you have, enjoy the process, and just really take the process in. Because if it doesn't get done today, it's going to get done tomorrow, and it's not going to go away. And if it does go away, it wasn't meant to be.
Right. I'm going to take you back to what you just said.
Yeah.
Like when you found out you had cancer, if we're okay with talking about
totally.
it. This is
absolutely.
Totally
You gotta be okay talking about it, man. It's part
tell
of me.
Tell me about what through your head, your mind, the impact on your family, because the family is always the foundation.
Yeah, totally.
The strength, and that's what the community. So let's talk about that.
It's crazy, right? I took it as a competition. When I got diagnosed with cancer, I took it as this is okay. Let's figure out a plan. Let's figure out what we do, what we have to get done. Let's make a game plan and just get it done. When I went in and talked to my urologist, he was like, yeah, we got to confirm this is cancer. Let's get you on the list next week to get surgery, and we'll go from there. And I said, okay, sounds good. Walked out with a smile on my face, and Mallory, my wife, was like, Danny, you're honestly the only person that I think would ever know those ladies have ever seen with a smile that just said you were diagnosed with cancer. And, the reason why I was smiling was because I took it as a competition. I said, I'm not going to let this thing beat me. Of course, you get worried, you get stressed, you get all these sorts of, anxiety. But, I started researching it up. I started connecting with groups with people that were diagnosed with this. Like, dude, this is a curable one. This is the one that you want to get. It was testicular cancer. And, I had my surgery done. And then my numbers started to drop like the way they needed to, but then my numbers kind of started going back up. And my oncologist was like, Danny, what do you want to do? This was a couple months after my surgery. I could have waited 2 or 3 more weeks, to start chemotherapy to make my mind up or what I wanted to do. And I said, when can we start? Let's get it done. Let's get going. Let's start next week if I could. And I took it by the horns and I ran with it. Took the bull to the horns and I said, let's do this. Let's freaking do this. And I know I'm going to do this.
I very much see your dad, that part of your dad, like, we're going to do this. Yeah. There's the optimism. Yeah. And I mean, it's obviously you, but where you get that strength from the family and stuff like that. Wow.
Regarding the family side of things, now I hear the stories, my mom and dad, they're so strong, right? They would come over, be like nothing was happening and be super, joyful. But, hearing the stories now from people, it's like they would go home and just bawl their eyes out. It's like they didn't want to see their kid like that. They always told me, it's like, if I could switch positions, I would want to switch position with you. I'm like, no, you don't need to. It's like, I literally said, like, I would rather it hit me than hit my parents because I know I can deal with it. Or rather, at least I know mentally I can go through this and I know that I'm going to beat this.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah.
That's very good. So, but before I forget, now I don't want to, I'm jumping around. I wanted to, but that's a very inspiring story. So my kudos to that because I understand that. How did it impact you, Luis?
I get emotional.
That's okay. I mean, take time. I understand that. I mean, that's the purpose of this. So I want to tell the story, the real story.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, we had our conversations, obviously, of what he was going through. And what I wanted to hear and what I was trying to do is just have him feel like he's still himself. And I know I may have not been, to every session like my parents would, but that's only because I thought that's what he wanted. And now we talked about this. I'm not going to get into those details. And I felt awful because I thought that maybe that's what he wanted, but it's not what he needed. It's what he wanted, but it's not what he needed. And that's where I still feel like I should have been a little bit better about it. I mean, it was very impactful for me. Like he's like, oh, you didn't seem sad. You don't care. I'm like, I didn't let anyone see. Like now I'll let people see how I really felt. Right. Like, you can ask my wife. Like she's like, why are you so upset? Like, why are you angry? I'm like, what's going on with Danny? Like, I'm not happy about it.
Right.
And then
yeah, exactly. I understand that.
Step out the door and just like, whew.
That's a difficult.
And then it seems like, you got this, man. trying to encourage him like the way we
positive.
would.
But you went forth with what you thought he needed.
Yes,
and that's just development as a leader.
I thought that's what he wanted, but it's not what he needed. And I understood that later. Yeah, maybe that's what he was saying and what I was hearing, but what he needed was something else.
But that's also just a long development as a person, as a leader. So I understand, because me and all my buddies, we spent a long time on it. We compartmentalize stuff so much, and we don't know how. I mean, at the time, we're just not equipped. Only by experience and learning do we like, oh, now I can tell somebody. We can use your story, what you're saying, to tell people when they go through it. Like, it's okay. You need to be there. I mean, so I understand that. So I just know the compartmentalization, the stoicism behind it. I understand it. So there's nothing wrong. You just go with what you knew how to do. And so, and that's, I understand that. So that's a very inspirational story. I love that you guys hung together like that. I understand the emotional component of it. Not completely, because it's your family, but I'm talking about the compartmentalization of emotions. And that's a tough one. So, before I forget, I want to congratulate you, Daniel, on your, for the Colorado Restaurant Association, the chair-elect.
Yeah.
For the chairman. I mean, we're going to end it on, we're going to move that. So congratulations on that. I always want to do that, because you're becoming a mover and a shaker in the restaurant community here in Colorado. So I have to congratulate your entire family to move into that position.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited. For me, I think it's a cool opportunity, but I'm really excited to, I guess, really check it out, be part of this, helping with this amazing community of restaurants. And hopefully, Luis does a better job than I do when he gets into that position one day. And I know that he will. And whatever he wants to do, whether it's this or both, it's like, that's the thing. Like, we like to be involved in so many things. It's my turn right now, and I know it's going to be Luis's turn one day. And, we're going to get involved in every way, even with the Hispanic Association, climb up the ladder in that way too, and help the Hispanic, community. It's, at the end of the day, I always think about this. It's like, man, that'd be cool if they made like a Ramirez Brothers award, right? Something that's, that really just, it's a yin and a yang type of person that, like just goes and conquers and isn't afraid to show who they are, whatever how old you are or whatever, race you are. You just continue moving forward.
Right. That's part of our El Camino a la Cumbre, road to the summit philosophy. Yeah. We're all on this mountain. We're going to climb different paths, different teams, but it's always a mountain. It's better together. Yeah. And so that's great. And so, Luis, I know you've when we talked recently, you want to join the Hispanic Restaurant Association, and you just said, tell me where I'm needed most. And we've talked about that, and we're going to do that. So thank you for that.
Of course.
So,
I mean, it's just, I started to think about all these questions that you asked me, and I'm like, oh, I should have said this, should have said that. So I actually have something to piggyback off that. What my brother said, we were in New York meeting with very prominent restaurateurs, and they told us one of us always has to stay involved, whether it's with the CRA, the HRA, doesn't matter. One of us always has to be involved, just because you have that pulse, your ear to the pulse, and you can really help people out. You can really be a part of something great. It's like, it doesn't matter who's there or not. So it's like Danny said, it's his turn right now. It'll be my turn in a couple of years. And
that's what I mentioned to you about our restaurant training series when we're going to talk about, and our leadership training, where I said, you are in the mix. You're an operator. And so that way I need your expertise. I'm not a restaurateur. I'm helping the restaurant. We're developing an organization to lift everybody up, kind of an overwatch. Yeah. So, well, thank you for that. So we're going to end the interview now. It's been great. Thank you for everything you guys have done.
Thanks for having us. Really, really appreciate it.
And so I'm going to give each of you, what do you have for us, for the HRA or for the restaurant community that you want to say?
Specifically for the HRA, I'm going to say, don't give up on the American dream. The American dream is still there. It's just a different way of looking at the American dream now. It's not so simple as it was. Well, it never was simple to begin with, but always shoot high and keep your American dream alive. Whether you want to be a TikTok influencer or you want to be specifically in the best industry, in my opinion, hospitality, just go for it. Go for your dream. That's what
Yeah.
my dad always said to us. And again, there's a lot of stigma between, oh, the American dream's gone. No, the American dream's still there. It's just how you want to do it.
It's still, it changes. I mean, just like any culture changes.
Adaptable.
And then exactly. And that's why we're developing the Latino Language Institute, the Food and Beverage Language Institute, to give people, immigrants that come to this country, the tools to start progressing. First, let's start English, then we can develop the leadership skills and then business skills beyond that, and give them hope, a North Star.
Absolutely.
So, and what would you have, Daniel?
It always goes back to, échale ganas. That's what my mom has always told us, échale ganas in whatever you do. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's possible. It just really talks about what it is. Like what Luis said, the American dream is still there. And, you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish. Our father even said, we'll leave you off with this. It's like, never let anyone tell you you can't accomplish anything, even if it's me. My father always told us that. And that's what I'm telling you is don't let anyone tell you you can't accomplish anything, even if it's me. You can, you will, and you can accomplish it if you put your heart and your mind to it.
Yeah, I firmly believe that. There's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
And we say, Celine and I say all the time, difficult the same day, impossible slightly longer.
Yeah.
So thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate everything
Thank
you
you.
do. So thank you.
Thank you, John.